Elizabeth Ando is challenging the Ministry of Children and Families' decision to take her child only hours after she was born. Ministry officials say the woman is an obsessive cleaner and her habits pose a threat to the baby's safety. 50 displaced fishermen on Vancouver Island still in shock today after they've learned they're losing their jobs to protect salmon stocks under a federal program. The $921,000 mapping scheme should have started yesterday, but someone in Ottawa has pulled the plug. Some accusations of political interference, perhaps by the fisheries minister himself. So far, no comment from David Anderson. In Toronto, a 13-year-old boy is in surgery getting a new heart. James McDonald has been on life support since a routine operation to fix a heart valve went wrong Tuesday. There was a public appeal by his parents. We saw those people lining up, giving blood, some of the 100 units of blood that James needs each day. That's Check News at noon. I'll see you at 5:30. Now stay tuned for Tayabji.
It's here, where we look outside the lines. Check TV. It's here.
Hi, I'm Judy Tayabji. Thanks for joining us today as we look into a very important issue, and that's the role of parents, government, and children. Now, you know, a few years ago when Matthew Vaudreuil was murdered by his mother, all eyes were on the government saying that not enough was being done to take children out of dangerous situations. Well, it's been a long time since then, and a lot of changes have occurred, and now people are saying the government is stepping in too quickly, and many children are being taken from their homes when some of the issues could be dealt with by dealing directly with the parents. Now, I think we have to ask ourselves a couple of questions as a society. First of all, we've got to determine, what is it that says a child is at risk? At what point do we give the government consent to remove children from our home? What do we think is reasonable? Is it enough to say, I don't like the way the child is being raised? Or should we actually have to see that there's a risk involved to the child? Should there be some sort of proof? The second thing we have to ask ourselves as a society is, do we still support the idea that we as a society will take care of those who need a little financial assistance through human resources? If the answer to that is yes, we have to admit that many parents are not getting the money to raise their children. And so they're living in poverty. And poverty breeds all kinds of issues, and those issues are often the ones that lead to a child being apprehended. So it's a bit hypocritical to, on the one hand, say, we're not going to fund you enough, and on the other hand say, and now we'll take your children away and pay more money to somebody else to raise them. Now, that's my opinion, that we should be looking at that we should be giving parents the resources they need to raise their own children, and that we have to be a lot more careful about what we use as an excuse to take them away. We'd like to hear your opinion now. I know some of you will disagree with me, and some of you will have your own stories to tell. We'd like to hear them. And we'll take your calls right now to this number. We have two parents who join us today, and although we only have two with us today, there are many, many more who are involved with oh my goodness, the lines are all ringing at once. If you're trying to get through, please let it ring. It'll take us a minute. Now, the two parents who join us, we're going to refer to them by their first names, Cora and Steve. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, both of you have children who have been apprehended by the government. I'm going to start with you, Cora. Can you just briefly give us an idea of your story?
Sure. I'm a single mother of 3 children. My daughter is going to be 10, my oldest son is 8, and I have a young one that's living at home who's 5.
Right.
The 2 oldest ones are in foster care at this time.
Now, why are they in foster care?
For many reasons. One was that my daughter had been sexually abused when she was really young, and I was having a hard time finding therapy for her. Mm-hmm. And the second one has fetal alcohol syndrome, and he's special needs, and they felt I couldn't handle him.
Now, do you think you can handle him?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, with the proper supports and the therapy for my daughter, yes, I could deal with them.
Do you know where they are right now, or do you get to see them?
I don't get to see them. I haven't seen them in a year and a half.
Okay. And do you know if they're getting the help that they need through the system now?
Well, as far as I know, but I don't.
You don't know?
They won't tell me anything.
Okay, so what's your objective then?
My objective is, first of all, to get access to my children, and then to ultimately bring them home.
Okay, and I'm going to bring you to the Steve, and you're actually yourself mobile in a way many of us are not.
Well, I'm a little challenged, you might say, but it slows me down, right. But it doesn't stop me.
Okay.
I also have 2 children in care. I am not a single parent.
Okay.
My wife and I have been together for over 15 years now.
Right.
And we have, as I say, 2 kids. Our daughter has been in care for 9 years.
Okay.
She's now 12 years old.
Now, has your wheelchair ever slowed you down from parenting?
Yes, it has, and that was one of the reasons that the ministry took our son, who they took 2 years ago. Because I couldn't stand up in front of a sink for several hours and do dishes. They got a phone call one night, fairly late, because we threw out a roommate. And they showed up first thing in the morning, and there was dishes all over the sink and all over the kitchen. And they claimed neglect and walked out of the house with them.
Okay. Now, with your 2 children, how long has it been since you've seen them?
Our daughter, it's been 6 years, and well, almost 7 years now. And with our son, the last time we saw him was April 13th or 16th last year.
Okay. So what would you like? What's your objective?
My objective is to, well, get access to the kids for one, and get them home eventually.
Okay. Now we're going to explain as the show goes on some of the obstacles that parents are experiencing. I want to make it clear though too that, and I should say please don't try not to mention specific names, although we'd like to hear your stories. Caseworkers are so overburdened on the front line, they're not even getting the resources they need to be able to answer a lot of the phone calls from parents. And it's not my intention to point fingers at the social workers, because I think they're doing the best they can with their current mandate. Let's talk to Donna, though, in Aldergrove. Hi, Donna.
Hi, Judy.
Hi, go ahead.
I'd just like to make a quick comment about what you just said about social workers.
Yes.
I don't think that the public out there knows that many of these people that are dealing with our children's lives are not social workers. They have neither a BSW or an MSW. They have a short training period in the ministry,
right,
and then they're put in. So there are many of them. And now how can these people that have never had any specific training
right,
be, even Penny Pretty mentioned on one of the TV things after the Quesnel that she couldn't judge whether or not all the apprehensions were
justified,
right, because she is not a social worker and therefore cannot make those decisions. Right. And yet her intake workers are not social workers, a lot of them, and they are dealing with our children's lives.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that, Donna. That's an important thing to note, that when the Gove report came out, that was one of the things he identified, that they needed more training. Many of the workers would like more training, and in fact the government is one day saying they will provide it and some days saying they're not going to provide it. Is that an issue that's being raised by parents? I mean, you meet with...
That's a big time issue.
It is a big issue.
As an example, one of the things that comes up on a regular basis is, in order to regain access, even visitation to a child, the ministry usually turns around and says, we want you to follow these specific guidelines.
Right.
We want you to follow, do this, be it get counseling, parenting courses, what have you.
Right.
And in a lot of the cases, the ministry turns around and says, you need a psychological or some sort of assessment, and then when you ask them, are you going to be able to assist us with funding or what have you, they flat out tell you no.
Right, and it's several $1,000s sometimes.
Yes, they are.
Now we have to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about this more. And for those of you who are foster parents, we'd like to hear from you as well. There are some issues in foster parents, and we will share that with the viewers, a new form that may be signed that could make a lot of problems for a lot of people. Anyway, we'll be right back.
If IKEA's designs can make this space more livable, imagine the possibilities for your home.
Managers are always asking, how do you boost productivity and increase revenue? Invest in 4 areas, I tell them: people, technology, business processes, and finally, space. Invest in your workspace. It will improve your bottom line. Got to get back to work. Morning, Fred. How's your day going?
Well, I've got a problem in accounting.
Tell me more.
Total Interior Space Solutions at Graphic Office, the island's only authorized steel case dealer.
Dave, you've got to put this advice in a book.
Because 5 minutes can turn into 15. Because 350 degrees is different on your mother's oven. Because sometimes you just forget. Because of all this, we reinvented Ivory Liquid with concentrated grease fighters that surround and break up grease faster than any other regular leading liquid. Ultra Ivory is an improvement on the original. It's got what it takes to take tough grease right out of your way.
After a bath, their skin is so soft and smooth. But after the diaper goes on, the day goes on. The freshness fades. So Pampers Premium added a new Gentle Touch Liner Plus Aloe. Its special layer of protection helps keep skin feeling softer and smoother than before. Pediatricians know healthy-looking skin is soft and smooth. So Pampers Premium created the Gentle Touch Liner Plus Aloe. A diaper can make a difference if it's new Pampers Premium. Pamper the skin they're in.
And we're talking about seized children, and certainly something that's been in the news quite a bit with the Quesnel apprehensions happening en masse and possibly other communities being targeted after that. We'll go straight back to the phone lines and then share a little bit about the group Healing from Within, which our two guests today are members of. And first we'll talk to Cindy in Vancouver. Hi, Cindy.
Hi. I have three small things, and I'll try to be brief.
Right.
One, I'm just curious how much a foster parent gets to care for a child.
Right.
And I'll let you answer that after I'm finished.
Sure.
Secondly, right now I'm temporarily on assistance. I'm an auxiliary worker for the City of Vancouver on indefinite leave. I was going to school, but I was told that I have to take a break and get some counseling for post-traumatic stress. And now I'm back on assistance. In January I earned too much, and they told me that I wasn't going to get anything for March. So I made an appointment with my worker and asked her if, at the end of the meeting, when it looked negative, I said, well, what about a crisis grant? She goes, no, we don't do that. So I went to DERA in Vancouver here, and they said
the Downtown Eastside Residents Association.
And they said that that's a bold-faced lie. Single parents are entitled to 6 crisis grants a year, and I had a legitimate reason. I've got rent. I've got heat and hydro on top of my rent.
Are you a parent?
Yeah, I've got an 8-year-old son.
Okay.
Now, because I made waves, I tried to get a hold of her supervisor, never got a response, so I went to DERA, and they got me to sign a form of release for information concerning my file and my case.
Right.
And instead of the worker getting back to them to talk to them about it, as my arbitrator now, she phoned me. I wasn't home yet, and my son was here sick with my best friend. So finally I said, to heck with this. Monday I phoned her supervisor because her supervisor never calls me back twice. She's reamed me out because I've tried to get a hold of him and tried to deal with the issues, and it's always money, you know. So anyway, I got a check yesterday for $402. Now that's supposed to cover my share of the rent, my my heat and hydro, my groceries, lunches for my son for school, anything he might need. He's been sick for 2 weeks. It's cost me like $25 in fever and cold and flu medication. Now, you know, this is ridiculous.
Okay.
Yet,
so what you're saying is that you're concerned because you're not going to be able to provide food.
well, the thing is, he was apprehended before, right? And the courts deemed it wrong and said, give him back right now, this minute, kind of thing.
Right.
And but that was a long process. It took 2 weeks. We had to go through 2 different hearings.
Well, you were lucky if you got him back in 2 weeks.
But they keep putting their nose in. They keep trying to shove services down my throat that I don't need.
Okay, well, let me let the guests respond to that. She's raised quite a few issues there. Now, in that case, the idea of poverty, and she asked how much foster parents make. So let's start with that, because for those who are watching who are removed from this, and certainly I know myself, if I hadn't spent any time with this, I wouldn't have realized how expensive the system is when we take children away instead of giving parents a little bit extra. Now, the basic rates, if you're a foster child of someone who fits into the regular category and they're age 0 to 11 years, you get $650 per month per child. 12 to 18 years goes up to $750. Now there are 3 other levels. So, and some children are categorized level 1, level 2, level 3. So to give you an idea, level 2 if they're aged 0 to 11 years, you get $1,657 or $1,752 if they're between 12 and 18 years. So parents are not being offered this level of support for children who are then deemed to be special needs enough that a foster parent is offered that. Has that come up for discussion with your workers? I mean, I can imagine some social workers would be frustrated that they can't offer parents something similar to what a foster parent gets.
That hasn't been my experience. My experience has been, well, you chose to stay on social assistance, therefore that's your position.
Okay, so there's that idea that because you're on welfare, then these consequences apply. You can lose your child, or
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a call from Shannon in Victoria. Hi, Shannon.
Hi.
Hi, go ahead.
Well, I just have to say I really sympathize with the people that are on the show, and I am going through this myself.
Okay.
I know what it's like not getting calls back from the social workers, and they keep your kids forever. I mean, it takes 6 months to get into a court just to be told that it has to be held over. Like, I'm just shaking with anger right now.
Yeah.
We understand, believe me.
Yeah, my kids have been gone. I have 4 children.
Right.
They're 11. I'm shaking.
That's okay.
They're 11, 7, 6, and 4.
Right.
And they've been gone for almost 2 years.
Now, what was the reason they took them away?
The reason they were taken was there was violence between my husband and myself.
Right.
And I went to a women's shelter. They came and took my kids right from the shelter.
Now, what I don't understand is why wouldn't they have given you support for leaving a violent relationship?
No. They came and took them. They lied to me. They told me that if I left with my kids that I would be running for the rest of my life from the law, which wasn't true. They had no papers. They had nothing.
Right.
So I gave my kids to them
Oh,
because
I see.
thought that was my only choice.
Oh, I see. They thought, okay, I understand. And so,
The
and you've
ministry,
been...
excuse me, Judy, but that's the one thing that I have to say where the ministry is concerned. They have, on numerous occasions, led parents to believe that it's in the best interest of the child
to sign them over.
To sign them over in a temporary care agreement, and then it takes, in some cases, 18 months, 2 years, 2.5 years, and then by the time you go to court, the court system usually rules that the child has been away from the parent
for so long. They've established a pattern of lived lifestyle. And how long have you been fighting for your children back?
My kids have been gone since November.
November of 97 or 96?
96.
Okay, well, thank you. I have to stop you there, but I would say that in that case, if she signed it over under false pretenses, she should first go and see one of her MLAs. And if you're in Victoria, I would recommend you go see Gretchen Bruin as soon as you can with that kind of information, because they can usually help. That's a pretty cut and dried one if you left a violent situation. And I know the government is trying to prevent children from being taken away from moms who are, or dads who are leaving a violent situation. I'm going to give you a bit of background on Healing from Within, a support group that any parent who's out there who would like to link up with can do that. And the parent support group Healing from Within recommends several changes to the way children in foster care are being handled. First, visits between children and their natural parents must increase in both length of visit and frequency. And all parties need to listen better to what the children need and want, something being echoed by the Ombudsman. The group says parents need to be informed about changes in their child's life, and there should be the creation of therapy sessions for children and parents. More open dialogue is needed between parents, foster parents, children, and social workers who now often operate in isolation from each other and often antagonistic. And the government should form policies aimed at reuniting families. There should be better education of foster parents, teachers, and social workers about child development and loss and grief. And the pay scale for foster parents should be adjusted so it is not attached to child behavior, because higher levels of pay do not encourage the reunification of families. So I guess you're saying that there's a financial incentive there for a child to be kept in a foster family if you're getting $1,600 a month.
Oh, yeah.
The best way that we've come across it was actually put to us by an 8-year-old from one of the members of the group we're involved with. It's a bit of a slam, I'll admit it, but this came out of the mouth of an 8-year-old. He asked his mother in front of a social worker, what's the first thing a social worker hears or sees when a child walks into the office, and automatically made the sound of a cash register.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, I think there's a lot of foster parents. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges to foster parents too. There are many really good foster parents who will say that that money is going directly into caring for the children, but I understand no system is going to be perfect. Okay, let's talk to Darlene now in Surrey. Hi, Darlene.
Hi.
Hi, go ahead.
Oh, hi. I don't know why they're so eager to jump at taking all these kids, babies away from these teenage girls.
Right.
I was following that story in the paper of the 16-year-old who had the baby, and because she didn't sterilize her bottles and stuff like that. I was 14 when I had my first child, and I didn't do a lot of things right either.
Right.
But today, my son is 30 years old. He has a wife and kids of his own, and he's doing just fine.
Now, was anybody in your family ever in the care of the government?
Actually, I was when I was a small child, but not here. I was in the prairies.
Well, that's great. Thanks for sharing that story. It does seem that that once someone gets into the system, it's so hard to get out because it can be generational.
Oh yeah. I was in foster care. I was actually in a group home until I was 4.5.
Okay.
I was adopted, and then my adoptive parents became foster parents. So I know this whole system inside out, both as a foster child, an adoptee, and a child living in a foster home.
Right.
So and again, my kids are gone.
Right.
And that seems to be the experience of a lot of parents I know.
You wanted to make a comment about that?
Well, I myself, I grew up in foster homes from the time I was a young teenager.
Right.
And it seems as though the ministry puts a black mark on you for whatever reason. I mean, you could.
That's what I'm observing is that there's different standards. If your family's never been associated with that, then you can get away with a lot more than if someone is watching you. Anyway, we have to take a break, and we'll be back to take more of your calls and comments on this. And we'll also tell you a new challenge being faced by foster parents. And so it's the other side of the coin. We'll be right back.
Tiamshi is brought to you in part by Metro Lexus Toyota, leaders in customer satisfaction.
Since 1939, Old South has been searching for the perfect new blends for our concentrated 100% juices.
Orange and cauliflower?
Not in my lifetime.
Corn? Ginger?
No, thanks.
Parsnip?
Are you guys aliens?
How about Swiss cheese?
No.
Oh, we need a break.
Orange and peach?
Orange, grape, and strawberry.
New Orange Peach and Orange Grape Strawberry. 100% juiced, 100% Old South.
You guys are...
geniuses!
Well, we sure had a lot of eyes damage this year. Be lucky to turn a profit. So you start depending on your savings, wondering if they're safe. Well, I asked. It turns out where we bank, they're a member of the Canada Deposit Insurance Corporation, and our savings are insured up to $60,000. Well, not everything is covered like mutual funds. You should find out for yourself. Go ask at your branch. You know, it may not be a fortune, but it's my fortune.
Hey! What's going on?
David wants to move home.
Just for a while, Dad. Hey, Dad, could you get the butter? Yeah? What's this?
Oh, we switched.
Door's always open, son.
Butter. You know, nothing tastes better.
Victoria, British Columbia doesn't close down after the summer sunsets. In fact, Victoria is even more enjoyable now during our secret season. Just call the Canadian Pacific's Empress Hotel and we'll tell you how to save on your stay with the Empress. Enjoy Empress afternoon tea. Take in the world-class Royal BC Museum. Go for a romantic carriage ride. We have a lot of other little secrets to offer, but you'll have to call to find out more about Victoria's secret season at the Empress.
And we're talking about children who've been seized from parents by the government and put into foster care and some of the challenges that parents are facing. We'll go back to the lines. Let's talk to Susan now in Victoria. Hi, Susan.
Hi.
Hi, go ahead.
My son is 7. He's ADHD. He's got a mild form of Tourette syndrome.
Okay.
And he can be quite aggressive and hard to handle at times.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the ministry's reasoning for taking him away from me.
Okay, were they saying that you weren't dealing with these special...
Yeah, that I was in denial because I said that I don't see a lot of this behavior at home. It was more in a class setting and that type of thing.
Right.
They took him away from me. Well, they took both my kids, but they gave my daughter right back.
How old is your daughter?
She's 5.
Okay.
And my son's 7.
Yeah.
They kept him from me. They took him to Fernwood House. It's a group home for boys with his problems.
Right.
His behavior got worse. He was suspended 3 times from school, and this is a severe behavioral class.
Right.
He was threatening to run away, trying to get home to me, telling people he wanted to be with me.
And have you seen him since they took him away?
Well, I finally got him back.
Oh, well,
because I got a lawyer, and I just, was right in there. Like, this is my child. I've been taking him to a psychiatrist. I've been doing all this stuff to try to help him.
Right.
And then they realized, oh, well, maybe we made a mistake.
Right.
And my worker said this to me on the phone. She's like, oh, okay, well, maybe we'll give him back now. We realized we made a mistake. And I'm sitting here going, well, this is just great. Like, this is my child.
Right. Okay, well, thanks for sharing your story, Susan. It seems to me that that would be a very expensive mistake for the government. I mean, all of these mistakes that are being made, and I know there's some people who say, well, you're better off making a mistake than leaving him in a situation where he could be at risk. But he wasn't in danger.
No.
Not necessarily, or at least from the story she's telling us. Do you think that they're overreacting? I mean, I don't know. I want to believe that the government's trying to do the best they can.
They are overreacting, in my personal opinion, because, as I say, in our case, they came in, and there was a kitchen full of dirty dishes.
Was there more than that, though? I mean, have they taken you to court to prove that there's been abuse? Have you had a hearing that said?
Well, we went to court back in April. It was April 11th, as a matter of fact, of last year, and the way they had mounted the evidence against us because of a case that happened 9 years ago.
Right.
We didn't even get up to the stand.
So you were never heard?
We were never. Our story was never heard.
Well, the court system seems to be a very inefficient way of dealing with this. I mean, if you can just sit down eyeball to eyeball with the parents and an arbitrator, that would make a lot more sense.
It would make a lot more sense and waste a lot less money.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk to Helen in Port Alberni. Hi, Helen.
Hi. I think the last thing that the welfare system should do is take the children. It harms the children and so much. I think the first thing they should do, if they have a concern with parents, is have a counseling session or teaching session to get the parents and kids together. Do not take the children away at the first, inkling of any problem, because a lot of times there is no problem. Like, the case of this fellow with his dirty dishes, he could be just sick or like he can't do it. He should have help. I mean, the last thing you should do is hurt the children by taking them away. It's so traumatic for them.
Okay.
They need to change their whole laws. And if there's a problem, talk to the parents, talk to the kids, deal with this, and take them away only as a last resort.
Okay. And I tend to agree with that. If there are other options, the government would say that they do explore other options first. And in fact, if you look at their policy notes, they say the very last resort is to take a child away. We won't take a child away unless we've explored all the other options, and we'll try to place that child with a relative. Were any of your relatives ever contacted?
My mother was point blank denied. She
tried to get a custody of the
my
children?
mother and father, who were foster parents for 13 years, who had worked with kids all their lives, were denied. And my father unfortunately passed away 2 years ago.
Right.
Of lung cancer, and my mother could not make it to the hearing because he was so ill.
Right.
And instead of saying, okay, well, maybe
we'll adjourn it until next time if he's dying.
Or maybe instead, maybe what we could do is, send them to live with relatives. Because, I mean, my mother has a whole support network. I'm in the middle of 5 children.
Right.
I mean,
right.
It would have made sense.
You've got a lot of relatives they didn't try to contact.
No.
Okay,
none.
We're going to now tell you a little bit about sort of the other side of the coin. Foster parents right now, I mean, so it's hard not to believe this is a whole ministry in total chaos sometimes. But anyway, foster parents, you may have heard, are in trouble, and there's a new contract, and they're concerned that it may make foster parents liable for damages or claims instead of the government staying liable. This could include insurance claims for damages caused by a foster child, or even future lawsuits by a foster child for abuse or neglect. The Federation is urging foster parents to not sign the new contract while they continue to press the government for changes. And some foster parents say they'll quit before signing this contract, and this comes at a time when the ministry is already short of foster parents. The development follows a recent lawsuit in which the government was sued after the abuse of 4 foster children in Nanaimo 30 years ago. And in that case, the courts awarded damages totaling $63,000 against the government, even though the judge said the abuse was not severe. And of course, what the government is worried about is they're going to get stung with litigation, with lawsuits, with class action suits from foster children who said you didn't need to take me away. And therefore they're saying, don't sue us, the government, go sue the foster parents who took care of you. That's not very fair. Anyway, we'll wait and see how that goes. They have a meeting with the minister on Tuesday, and we'll be watching that too. Anyway, Sherry and Victoria, go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
I am a child who was taken away and put in 3 foster homes in a matter of 10 months.
Right.
And
how old was your child?
no, I'm referring to me.
Oh, you as a child.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And right now, like, it wasn't too long ago that I just found out I had a baby on the way.
Right.
And I'm thinking of all the past experiences that I've had.
Right.
Of going through the ministry. I remember the first night that they took not only just me, but my little sister away.
Right.
And we were placed into an emergency overnight foster care.
Right.
And then the very next day, we were taken to this other foster home that was supposed to be permanent for us till the rest of our stay.
Right.
And we weren't allowed to see our mother. We weren't allowed to call him.
And how old were you?
I was about 10 years of age.
Okay. And what was the reason they took you away?
At that time, my mother had some problems with my father, and they had split up.
Right.
And my mother was trying to do her best in a huge house
Right.
with 2 kids and very minimal amount of money.
Right.
And she was working part-time.
Right.
And social services wouldn't help her.
Okay. So what you're saying is there was a financial issue, or in your perspective, and you ended up in foster care, and now you're expecting a baby.
Yes, I am.
And you're concerned that they might step in?
Yeah.
Why would they step in?
Because of the past history that I've had with my mother, I went into foster care. I moved in with family members after I moved back home. I had problems with my mom.
Right.
And now I'm living out on my own.
Right.
And I've talked to my social worker, and I have to keep in touch with her.
Right.
Saying, well, this is what's going on and in this direction, and she's going, oh, well, we'll try and make sure that this doesn't happen. So I have to go in and I have to sign a contract to meet every need before my baby is born.
You have to sign a contract?
Yes, I do.
And it has to do with parenting?
Yes, I have to meet all the requirements that social services sets up for me so that they don't take my baby away.
What? That's an outrage. You're about to be a parent and you're going to have to sign away your rights as a parent to some piece of paper for the government?
That's right.
Well, I'd like to see a copy of that contract. We're late to take a break. Thank you for sharing your story, Sherry. That's horrifying. Well, as I said, before we go to the break, if you're a parent and you would like to, or if you're a person who's concerned about the situation and you would like to support Healing from Within, this is how you can contact them. They're at number 207 638 Alexander Street, Vancouver, BC, V6A 3X9, and you can phone 604-254-1389. And they are holding a rally this Saturday in Vancouver. And the rally is at outside the Hyatt Regency, and that's where the NDP convention is. Of course, the NDP being the government in BC and the ones who can make a difference here. The rally is Saturday at 2:30 at the Hyatt Regency in downtown Vancouver, and it will be interesting to see what happens there. We'll be right back.
From feuding families to forbidden fantasies. You may think Jerry's wild. You may think Jerry's outrageous. But you ain't seen nothing yet. Jerry Springer, too hot for TV. It's the explosive video with the most shocking footage the censors won't let you see. And you can't find it in any store. It's racy. It's raucous. It's remarkable. It's way too hot to show you here. But order now and you'll see it all. Warning. This video contains nudity and adult language. Parental discretion is strongly advised. To order, have your credit card ready and call 1-800-324-3773. That's 1-800-324-3773. Jerry Springer, Too Hot for TV, is not available in stores, but you can get it now for only $19.95. Call now or order online at www.getjerry.com.
I'm never eating anything but peanut butter and jelly again.
Sure, Matthew.
PBJ, 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 peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, PBJ, PBJ.
Tonight we're having meatloaf with all the trimmings.
Introducing Safeway Great Meal Combos. Just heat and serve. So good, you won't believe it.
I'm never eating anything but meatloaf again. Meatloaf, meatloaf.
You know when you're traveling, you look for things you know, things that are familiar, that make you feel comfortable, things that make you feel at home. That's why it's always so good to see the Howard Johnson sign. And with Howard Johnson Super Miles, you can earn free hotel stays, Avis car rentals, and airline mileage vouchers toward travel on Continental, TWA, American Airlines, and Canadian Airlines. And the more you stay, the greater your rewards.
Howard Johnson makes you feel at home.
I'm still ranting about some form. But anyway, I want to see a copy of that form. If anybody has a copy of that form, and the producer said the same thing, it's defies the mind. Anyway, we'll go back to the lines. Talk to Linda in New Westminster. Hi, Linda.
Hi. My child's been apprehended, and she's been in care for like 17 months now, and it seems like no matter what I do, it's not good enough in order to get her out of the care.
How old is she?
She's now 4 years old.
Okay.
Steve knows who I am.
Yeah. All right. Now, what reason did they give you for taking your child away?
My mother and I were fighting and fighting and fighting like cats and dogs. We fought when I was a kid. We fought when I moved away from her. We fought when I moved back in with my child.
Right.
And it got, when we first moved back in together, it was like, okay, this is a nice little honeymoon. Nothing was going wrong. And then things started to go bad to worse. I would have to beg my mother to watch my daughter. I wasn't allowed a babysitter in the house.
But I don't understand, where was your child at risk?
The relationship.
Were there physical fights with the child? Were you not feeding her? Was she getting sick?
My mother's saying I wasn't taking care of her.
Your mother reported you?
No, my mother was saying, this is after she was taken.
Oh.
Anyhow, just in the last month, I've had two really bad fights with both the Ministry for Children and Families and the Ministry for Social Services.
Right.
One of them I won.
Mm-hmm.
Social Services was planning on taking away the money I need in order to keep my place.
Mm-hmm.
And if that money's taken away, I would not
get your daughter back.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
I'm in a one-bedroom basement suite that's just big enough for the two of us.
Right.
And it's...
But I don't understand why they took her away. Like, usually she has to be at risk.
My mother charged me with assaulting her, for that matter.
Assaulting your mom?
Yeah.
But your daughter?
Yeah.
Not your daughter?
Not my daughter, my mother.
Okay, well,
and
I'm going to let the guests talk about this. It sounds,
no.
Okay.
This gets from bad to worse. Last time we were in court in October,
yeah.
I was convinced by the judges and by everybody else that I should give up sole custody of my daughter so that my mother and I shared joint custody on the grounds that my daughter was not going to be moved from foster care. Last week, on Monday, I was told that my daughter was going to be moved to my mother's place.
Right.
No ifs, ands, or buts. I wasn't told about this. I wasn't notified.
How old are you?
I'm 25.
25. And were you a foster child?
I should have been. Apparently, there's a rumor that my dad told me that I was in foster care before I was 3, but I don't remember this.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And this was in Ontario.
Right.
Anyhow, I'm Aboriginal, and my Aboriginal organization, Métis Family Services, managed to stop my mother. They showed up in court Wednesday morning to stop her, and at that point, my daughter, or the social worker decided not to move my daughter. But I can't even trust my social worker anymore because they went behind my back to move my daughter.
Now, is your mother Aboriginal?
No, my father is.
Okay. All right, well, thank you.
And my mother's saying I'm not Aboriginal. And so it's like...
Okay, all right, well, thank you.
I'm getting 2 stories from the ministry.
Yeah.
And one of the stories is
it's okay, don't worry about getting a job, we just want you to get better. And
Okay.
yes, there's also the get a job.
Right. Okay. I'm sorry. I have to get you. It's an interesting story. It's taken up a lot of time, but it's an important story. What is going? What is this? What else is there to this story? I mean, she says she's Aboriginal. Her mom says she isn't. Her dad is Aboriginal. We haven't told people, but you guys have that element as well.
That happens in a lot of cases where the father of one of the parents may have some sort of Aboriginal background, but it's ignored because of the way they were brought up. In my wife's case, that's exactly what's happened. Because of the research we've done, we've actually discovered that her father was Métis. Okay, now he ignored it. This was never brought up to her. And the ministry is ignoring the fact that this is what we're saying. And unfortunately, that brings on the thing about the Aboriginal apprehensions as well, because
and that's a whole separate part of the act. And you have that situation with your children as well?
With my oldest one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we have to take a break, and we'll take more calls. That went very quickly, but we'll be back, and we're talking about child seizures by the government and the foster care system in BC.
Rainbow tortellini with marinara sauce. Spinach linguine and 4 cheese sauce.
You may have already tasted Olivieri fresh pasta and gourmet sauces. Olivieri, as good to cook as it is to serve.
Sun-dried tomato pesto sauce on angel hair pasta.
All right, everybody, to the kitchen!
Olivieri, as good as it gets.
The Bays 1998 Harness Handicapping Challenge continues Sunday, March 8th with the semi-final that'll produce a dozen finalists in the championships on March 15th. $2,000 in fine furniture from the Bay and $2,800 in cash are on the line. See ads in the Province Sports Friday for details.
Fraser Downs, Canada's newest 5/8-mile track.
Our law firm represents people who have been injured. One free call can get you the help you need. You can't always settle for what the insurance company offers you. Too many times their offer isn't enough. Remember, we don't collect any attorney's fees unless we're successful. I know you're anxious to settle your claim, but it's a wise move to call us first. One free call can be the start of a new beginning.
Klein Lyons, help people who have been injured in an accident. Call 874-7171.
We're talking about children who've been seized. A lot of us have heard about the Quesnel situation, but we're just learning from some parents a little bit closer to here. We're going to try and take a number of calls in a row, if I remember to do that. First, let's talk to Ted in Vancouver. Hi, Ted.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we were foster parents here. To start with, we had been foster parents in Ontario before moving to British Columbia. We had had 19 foster children.
Right.
All who were raised from teens when we got them, because we always took
The older
teenagers.
ones. Okay.
Okay. We came to BC, and we were approached, actually, to become foster parents. We became foster parents for a 15-year-old young lady.
Right.
It so happened that her social worker came by the house one day when I happened to be off shift, because both my wife and I work in law enforcement, and we're on separate shifts.
Right.
It's been always my job in the family to do the family laundry.
Right.
Okay, as the husband, we split our jobs.
Right. Then you
The
should be
social worker
commended for
came in.
that.
I was doing the laundry.
Yeah.
I was doing the laundry,
Yeah.
and it just happened that the young lady's clothes were there, her underwear and so on. The social worker, a 23-year-old young lady, came in, and she said, what are you doing with those clothes? And I said, I'm doing laundry like I've done for the past 27 years we've been married.
Right.
She said, oh, well, you shouldn't be doing the girl's laundry for her. And this is bearing in mind now that we raised 4 of our own children.
Right.
Some daughters.
Right.
Okay? 2 days later, I got a phone call saying, we would like you to come to the office. So I went to the office, and they said, we're removing that foster child because we'd like you to see a psychologist because we feel you have pedophile tendencies.
Oh, my goodness. That's a bit of a disincentive for any men who want to do laundry.
Well, it is, bearing in mind now that we've generally, the main young ladies we looked after were pregnant young ladies, okay, teenagers.
Right.
So,
So did you have any recourse? Like, what did you say?
You know what my recourse was? It took me a year and a half in court to get this dropped from me.
And
now, they
dropped.
took her away, of course.
Yeah.
And we don't do this for the money, okay?
Yeah.
We enjoyed it, okay? But, I thought, what kind of nonsense? And then when it did go to court and we asked the qualifications of this young lady, she had 1 year of university.
Right.
And she was hired by the ministry. She had no training in social work at all. She had taken a business course.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for
This is why it discourages foster parenting in this province and why they're short. And there's nothing they can do about it.
Well, thanks, Ted. Well, there's some things they can do and make a better system. Let's talk to Elaine now in Victoria. Hi, Elaine.
Good afternoon, Judy. How are you?
Fine, thanks. Go ahead.
Good. I'd like to comment that perhaps the government wouldn't have to be liable for foster parents, the abuse situation, if they did the job properly. I don't...
Right. I mean, it's kind of a weird thing, isn't it? It's like they're acknowledging the system's broken. They just don't want to have to be accountable for it.
Well, the thing is for starters, is when I was a young child, I had to near beg to be taken out of my home before they made me a permanent ward of the court, right?
Right.
And then from age 7 to 17, I bounced from 11 foster homes, 2 group homes, and 1 treatment center.
Right.
And where did that get me?
Yeah.
You don't feel secure or anything like that. How can they do that to a child when they think they're keeping you safe?
Right. So you're just saying that you've experienced it from the inside.
And I have been treated way worse in those foster homes than I was ever treated at home. And that's my comment.
Okay, well, thanks for that. That's quite a comment considering she asked to be taken into foster care.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk to Jennifer in Vancouver. Hi, Jennifer.
Oh, hi. I'm coming at this from a bit of a different angle. I'm a counselor in a residential facility for teenagers.
Yeah.
So we see kids that are in homes with their parents that shouldn't be, in foster homes where they shouldn't be.
Right.
There's problems from all sides.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to kind of lay blame.
Right.
But there are some comments. The reason why foster parents are paid is because it's a job. And the reason why parents aren't paid the same amount of money is because it's not a job that they're hired for.
Right. Although if you read the manual from the government, they actually say that they're reimbursing expenses and it's a not-for-profit position. They do actually state that. And so that's why I find it odd that if they say, these are your basic expenses if you're a foster parent, but if you're a parent, they're a third of that. That's kind of strange.
Yeah, well, I know the different levels of the foster parents are based on the difficulty of the child, the problems that they have.
Right.
And the teens that we deal with where I work are definitely the extreme cases.
Right.
And, I mean, sometimes you see foster placements that have no experience, no training, and you wonder why are the kids placed there. You see parents who have very little, social skills, parenting skills, and you wonder why the kids haven't been taken away.
Right.
So you kind of see it from all angles, and I think the movement now, from what I'm hearing, from the inside, is that we're looking towards more community involvement, getting counselors and trained crisis intervention workers actually going into the home before any movement happens.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And we've run out of time in this segment, but that's good to hear from someone who's a counselor about more community involvement.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
My concern would be that they say they're going to do this, and I hope they do. I really hope they do.
Sooner rather than later.
But I'd rather see it in place, like within the next month, rather than 5 years down the road.
Right. Okay, we have to take a break, and when we do, we'll come back with more of your calls and comments, and certainly talk to our guests about the issue of the government seizing children and what we do with them after that.
Everyone's long-distance calling is different, so why should everyone be on the same savings plan? Some people always call the same number, and others call all over the place. That's why BCTEL created new personalized long distance, with new savings plans for the way you use long distance, and rates from as low as 10 cents a minute. Call today and talk to us about a personalized plan that's one of a kind. Just like you.
Be close. BCTEL.
In the news, excitement is growing over the new brake technology announced by Midas. When tested on yellow cabs in San Francisco, these new carbon metallic brake pads lasted 29% longer than ordinary brake pads. Cab owners are delighted since they'll be spending less on brake repairs. They can now afford to spruce up their fleets.
New performance friction carbon metallic brake pads, now at Midas.
Why do people go crazy about Standard's warehouse overflow sale? Let's find out.
It's fantastic. It's like a zoo in here, but this is the only time we buy our furniture.
I'm on a budget, so the warehouse sale is great for me. I got this for 50% off. I just saw somebody buying a leather sofa for $1,000 off.
No interest, no payment for 90 days. Even if it's a sale, we'll deliver for free. It's your chance to save thousands of dollars. Don't miss this sale because it ends Saturday at 5:30. I'm a happy man.
Mr. Morgan? I've got a problem on this big Robertson claim.
Just make him a lowball offer.
The guy is pretty banged up. Big medical bills.
Look, he'll take the quick bucks. Get him to settle fast or off the hook.
Well, he's got a lawyer.
That doesn't necessarily mean anything. Who'd he get?
Klein Lyons.
This is going to cost us a lot of money.
Call Klein Lyons at 874-7171.
Okay, I'm just learning that there's a bit of a gag order on parents apparently talking about what's going on with their children in the system. That's weird. All right, there's a lot of very strange things here, but anyway, I'm sure some government official would have an explanation. Let's talk to Viola from Victoria.
Yes, good afternoon, Judy. Mine is another horror story of a deceased child.
Okay.
In 1988, I was a Navy wife, and we were well supported, and the social service, because of my medical, because I had 2 bad operations and my son was a preemie, they hired a maid to come in to help me.
Right.
And over the time of, he was born in 87, and through 87 and 88, then she started saying things that I should leave him.
The maid did?
Yeah, leave my husband.
Oh.
And so she got in, she was just a maid, and to make a long story short, she put herself in the place of a social worker. She came when she shouldn't have, late in the evening, caused a situation, and they walked out with my son. And things just went from bad to worse. They took my social worker, took her word over mine, and I hadn't seen my son in 6 weeks, and I tried to fight for him, and my lawyers didn't do nothing.
Right. Yeah. And so where is he now?
I don't know. I suppose they've still got him, but the thing is, it's just a horror story.
But what was the allegation against you?
The thing is, I went with a counselor in 90 to see an office off Hillside.
Yeah.
And I went with them, and, I was a very good Catholic, and I asked them, in the name of God, what was the charge? And they just looked at me blank-faced for 45 minutes. I've never been told why he was seized.
Wow. Okay, well, thank you for sharing that story. There seems to be, I noticed from some of the material that was provided, that sometimes if there, and I don't know about in this case, but if there was alleged abuse between one parent against the other, if the one parent leaves to try to escape that abuse, that
they're putting the child at risk for being apprehended by the ministry because it's not a dual parent family.
Yeah. And a single parent family is not good enough?
A single parent family is at risk. Anybody that's on a disability or handicapped is generally at risk. Anyone with a past history of alcoholism, even though they've been clean and sober, which in our case is the situation, for like 9 years, they're at risk. Anybody with anything like that, or anybody that was raised by the ministry or below the poverty level.
Okay. Yeah. Let's talk to Wendy in Comox. Hi, Wendy.
Hi. I have a totally different side of the story.
Okay.
I should have been taken away from my parents. Both my parents are alcoholics and drug addicts.
Right.
And I'm sorry to disappoint your female guest there, but as far as I go, this is only my opinion, but if she had a baby born with fetal alcohol syndrome, that means she was abusing her child even before it was born. That's my opinion. I'm sorry to insult you, but I was a sufferer of child abuse, both physically and mentally. I cried out for help. I talked to my school counselor. I called my local MLA to see if there was anything at all that I could do.
And you didn't
no, nothing.
Okay.
They didn't even come to my house. But when they did finally come to my house, my mother dressed up the house all nice, and she was on her best behavior, and basically I was called a liar. There was no way this woman should have had children.
Okay.
You need a license in this country to own a dog. You need a license to kill a fish. But if you just lie on your back, you can be a mother, and I think that's wrong.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing. I'm really glad that you brought out the other side of it.
I just think that the children should come first. I really, really believe, and if the government makes a mistake, I think it's better than the mistake of leaving a child in an abusive situation.
Okay, well, thank you for that. That's certainly what the government will say, is that they're better off erring on the side of caution.
In some cases,
I think I think she needs to answer
Sorry,
this
Cora.
one. Yeah.
I need to answer this one. Number one, when I found out I was pregnant with Roy, I had just left a very abusive relationship, and the man was stalking me, and I could not get any support from the police or anything. And my only thing that I needed to deal with this was to drink. And I know that, and I have dealt with that. Now, I know that's not the case with all parents, and I understand that. And he's a beautiful little boy.
Right.
He's adorable. And I'm not going to beat myself up for drinking while I was pregnant.
Right.
I refuse to do that. I've done that for too long.
Beating yourself up.
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
And I'm afraid we're out of time, but I want to thank you both for coming over from Vancouver, and good luck with your rally on Saturday.
Thank you.
Hopefully a lot of other people show up for it as well.
Okay. And we have to take a break, and then we'll have closing comments and tell you about tomorrow's show.
Sunkissed, the oranges with the irresistible taste. And now, Sunkissed Premium Orange Juice with the same 100% pure fresh taste.
For me, it's the champion of juices.
And the juice of future champions.
From feuding families to forbidden fantasies, you may think Jerry's wild. You may think Jerry's outrageous. But you ain't seen nothing yet. Jerry Springer, too hot for TV. It's the explosive video with the most shocking footage the censors won't let you see. And you can't find it in any store. It's racy. It's raucous. It's remarkable. It's way too hot to show you here. But order now and you'll see it all. Warning, this video contains nudity and adult language. Parental discretion is strongly advised. To order, have your credit card ready and call 1-800-324-3773. That's 1-800-324-3773. Jerry Springer, too hot for TV, is not available in stores, but you can get it now for only $19.95. Call now or order online at www.getjerry.com.
McCain brings you the freshest tasting frozen pizza ever made. McCain Pizza Premier in the unique vacuum-packed flavor lock package that seals air out so it stays fresher tasting longer. It cooks in just half the time and has a tender, no-mess rim. So whenever you're ready for pizza, McCain Pizza Premier is ready for you in fresh tasting deli lovers, pepperoni, and deluxe. McCain Pizza Premier. We've got a lock on fresh taste.
Coming up, we're going to be talking about Aboriginal children who've been seized, which is sort of part 2 of today's show. That's tomorrow. And then we're doing a 3-part series on education next week, talking about education costs, troubled school principals, and some of the more contentious issues in the education system. And of course, that is part of our commitment to bring you a series on education this spring. Now, if you have comments or questions about Aboriginal children who've been seized, you can fax us at 250-389-1226 or email us at tyabji@wic.ca. And of course, that's something that is related to today's issue. And our last caller had an important point. Of course, we have to err on the side of caution. Where I'm concerned is poverty has really come into play. Now, all of us are having a tough time making ends meet these days, but for the poor people in our society, it's been increasingly difficult. They haven't had rates increase to match inflation, and they're having a hard time feeding their children. And because the ministry is split into two, from social services into human resources and children and families, human resources has frozen the rates, and children and families now feel they have to go in and seize the children because they're not being adequately clothed and fed. That's just dumb, okay? It's going to cost us a lot more money if we're not focusing on what's most important. Children who are at risk should be apprehended, and the rest should just be assisted. We'll see you tomorrow.